How's it going? Phobic Shiki finally back with a brand new video. Sorry for the long hiatus. Consistent uploads will be back once I finish building my new PC. Been having a lot of issues with editing on my current hardware, but that aside, today I am going to be ranking each Boruto chapter of 2022 from worst to best. This serves as a sequel to last year's chapter ranking and will hopefully be a yearly thing until the end of the series. Anyways, let's get it started with the worst Boruto chapter of 2022. Chapter 73 is titled A Special Mission, and let me tell you, the title may very well be the only thing special about this chapter. The bulk of Chapter 73 is Shikamaru giving an extremely dragged out explanation on Team 7's cohabitation mission. For this mission, Boruto and Kawaki will be placed into the same residence as Ada and Damon, in order to both keep Ada happy, along with keeping an eye on not just the cyborg siblings, but Boruto and Kawaki as well. Sarada, Mitsuki, and Konohamaru will stay close by to provide both surveillance and immediate assistance to Boruto and Kawaki if one needed. After the mission briefing, Sasuke and Naruto reiterate the details of Sasuke calling it glorified house arrest. During said conversation, the panel returns to the Hokage's office where Kawaki notices Momoshiki's presence near Boruto. Sasuke, from where he is talking to Naruto, also senses Momoshiki's presence, even going as far to say that the feeling he felt was similar to his first encounter with Momoshiki. This chapter was far too dragged out. For being a monthly manga especially, it's quite annoying waiting about 30 days on average just to get a mission briefing. We got 40 pages of shit that I just told you in 40 seconds, so yeah. Chapter 76, A Girl's Sanctuary, is the most recent and final chapter of 2022. As Ada gets to know Boruto and Kawaki, she keeps finding herself getting flustered by Kawaki. Ada, being the only girl in the room, summons both Sarada and Sumire so she can discuss her feelings more openly. Upon arriving and beginning their discussion with Ada, Sarada and Sumire soon realize that Ada's charm ability seems to not be affecting them, despite the strong force they can feel coming from her. After revealing this intel with Shikamaru via Ino's mind-body transmission technique, they determine the best course of action is to keep this information completely to themselves, not even telling Boruto or Kawaki, as to prevent Ada getting spooked and disposing of them due to them technically being capable of killing her. While they may not be nearly strong enough from a power perspective to take on a threat stated to be above Jigen in a straightforward fight, due to them being unaffected by Ada's charm, the possibility of gaining trust to then go for a sneak attack is what gives them this capability. Momoshiki's thoughts then link with Boruto again, as he reveals he has discovered the identity of Ada's charm ability. Kawaki, seeing the look on Boruto's face, knows something is up and challenges Momoshiki to appear in front of him. While the revelation of Sarada and Sumire being immune to Ada's charm is a big one, that's really the only piece of important information we get. With the most action, if you even want to call it that, being Kawaki telling Momoshiki to reveal himself at the end. Chapter 72, titled Smaller and More Useful, is a perfect summary for what happens at the end of this chapter. Limitless Code morphing the 10 Tails into multiple humanoid beings that can travel through Code's claw marks at will. Prior to these events, the chapter starts with Shikamaru and Naruto, mainly Shikamaru, questioning Kawaki about the regaining of his karma, before getting interrupted by a call from Amato. Amato, after slithering out of a certain death situation in Chapter 71, is now heading back to Konoha from the outskirts of the Land of Snow, accompanied by Ada and Damon. Team 7 gets summoned for the mission mentioned in the previous entry on this list, and on the way out of his house, Boruto is stopped by Hinata, who breaks down in tears concerned for her son's well-being. Boruto promises that he will always come home no matter what, and then leaves the house and immediately gets scolded by Momoshiki for these words. Momoshiki then goes on with his "those blue eyes will take everything from you" spiel before telling Boruto that once he loses his will to live, Momoshiki's consciousness will be able to take over. The chapter ends with Code morphing the 10 Tails as mentioned earlier. While this might still be a weaker chapter overall, I feel like a lot more important stuff happens in this one compared to Chapter 73 and Chapter 76. Up next, we have Chapter 74, Baptism by Fire. In this chapter, Amato, Ada, and Damon arrive at Konoha. Ada impatiently brushes off Shikamaru and Sai's attempt to be escorted to their new home, and instead, she opts to simply fly there. Amato even states, to Shikamaru's shock, that before long, Boruto and Kawaki will be zipping around like so themselves. Upon Ada and Damon's arrival at the residence, Damon decides to play around with Boruto and Kawaki by easily 1v2ing them. He even catches Kawaki's chakra rods, one of which he catches with his teeth. After things settle down, the two duos start getting to know each other, before Shikamaru and Naruto sit down Amato to have him reveal his plans. All in all, this was a decent chapter and did a good job displaying the difference in power between Damon and everyone else. While Boruto and Kawaki may have been in base, aside from Kawaki using his dojutsu to spawn chakra rods, I feel like this is still a very impressive feat from Damon, as he did this with absolutely zero difficulty. Overall, I feel like this and Chapter 72 are pretty interchangeable, with this one getting the slight edge due to simply having more action while containing almost the same amount of important dialogue. I know what you're probably thinking. 3 chapters in one ranking? Let me explain. These next 3 chapters are going to cover spots 7 through 5 as they all cover one main conflict. Chapter 68, Scar, starts with debriefing of the events that played out in Chapter 66 and prior. We get a nice revelation that Sasuke is aware of Code's original hideout within Boro's facility in the Land of Snow. Speaking of Code, after narrowly escaping death in Chapter 67, Code waits for Shikamaru to be alone with Amato so he can jump out of the claw mark seal he placed on Shikamaru's back. After supposedly catching Shikamaru off guard, and definitely catching Amato off guard, Shikamaru reveals that this was a part of a trap he set up knowing Code just couldn't wait for his opportunity to strike. Shikamaru yells, "Wake up, Bronco!" and out comes Delta, completely rewired to serve as an ally to Konoha. After getting absolutely destroyed by Delta, Code reaches into his claw mark to pull Ada into the mix. Once revealed, the look of terror on Amato's face may be the first time to this point where this man was truly terrified. Chapter 69, Cactus, then begins. After a few words are exchanged between Ada and Amato, Delta charges Ada with the intent to kill, but is strangely stopped mid-attack, seemingly unable to control herself, to the surprise of both her and Shikamaru. The scene skips to Sasuke and Boruto having a conversation about what happened in the prior chapters before Sasuke gives Boruto his headband, thus letting us know exactly how Boruto got Sasuke's headband in Chapter 1. Their conversation is quickly derailed as Ino reaches out to request backup for Shikamaru, which the duo of master and student head straight in to provide said backup. Naruto, who was having a conversation with Kawaki after he had woken up, dismisses himself to go help. Back in the lab, Shikamaru gets linked up with Amato via the mind-body transmission to try and get a better understanding of what is going on. After learning of Ada's charm ability, Shikamaru instructs Ino to lock the doors and stall the backup he requested. He then makes a proposal to Ada. Join Konoha and you can meet and be with Kawaki. Chapter 70, from the bottom of my heart, picks up right where 69 left off. Ada begins to consider Shikamaru's offer, much to Code's dismay, before using her Senrigan to see Naruto trying to get in with Sasuke and Boruto trailing close behind. Amato then explains the Senrigan, and is cut off by Ada agreeing with Shikamaru that there is not a real cause for hostility between her and Konoha. She's told that there will be cause for hostility if she keeps aligning herself with Code, but otherwise, they can be allies. Ada then sees Kawaki coming with her Senrigan, and instructs Code that it is time to retreat. Code follows, but not before telling Shikamaru that he will be added to his retribution list and snatching up Amato. Back at the hideout, Code forces Amato to lift his limiters. Now that I've explained all that, I'm sure you can see why I decided to lump them all together into the 7th through 5th spot. They're all pretty interchangeable in this middle area, and I wouldn't say one of them is particularly much better than the other two, but they are better than every chapter on the list in the 8th to 11th spot by far. Chapter 71, Hindrance. After having his limiters removed, Code goes in for the kill on Amato, but is stopped mid-swing by Ada as Amato mentions wanting to talk to her about Kawaki. This starts an argument between Code and Ada as Code feels like Ada has no right to stop him from killing Amato. This argument leads to a full-on fight between Limitless Code and Damon. After a few blows are traded, more dialogue follows in which Code refers to Damon as the real hindrance. Just before clashing again, Bug screams to Code that Damon's reflection ability only works while he is physically touching another person. This is all in vain though, as Code is immediately blitzed and slammed into the ground the second he tries to capitalize on this new intel. Code pops out of the claw mark directly behind / above Damon on some Splitgate shit just to get kicked in the face again. Code declares that after he becomes full Otsutsuki, he will know for sure whether he wants to love or kill Ada. Code then narrowly escapes Damon's kill shot, or what I'm assuming to be a kill shot based on what Code said to Ada prior and Damon's facial expression, with Bug through his claw mark. Code vows to destroy both Kawaki and everything he loves while Amato finishes convincing Ada to join Konoha, with them subsequently heading out to return. This chapter serves as an immediate follow-up to the conflict in chapters 68 through 70, giving us more insight on Amato's manipulation tactics and Limitless Code vs. Damon. Due to the aforementioned fight, we learn the weakness in Damon's reflection and that despite said weakness, the kid is quite literally unstoppable anyway, as he casually defeats Limitless Code, the same Limitless Code who he himself states to be stronger than Jigen. We are now entering the top 3 chapters of the year, and without further ado, let's get right into it. Coming in at number 3, we had chapter 67, Rift. This chapter serves as a follow-up to the events in chapter 66, which primarily will be discussed later in the video. Chapter 67 opens up with an extremely emotional Naruto panicking at the sight of his lifeless son. Meanwhile, Code tries to retreat but is quickly apprehended by Kawaki shrinking his claw mark, thus cutting off his escape route. Kawaki starts fighting Code, in whom it is very clear Kawaki is above. Off to the side, Shikamaru tries to snap Naruto out of the daze he is in to no avail. Naruto is so lost in Boruto's quote-unquote death that he has even dropped his Sage mode. As we flip back to Kawaki vs Code, Kawaki has Code backed into a corner, and as he goes for the kill shot, is suddenly hit by his own attack. Unbeknownst to Kawaki at the time, this was his first interaction with Damon. Code, as dumb as he usually is, very intelligently and on the fly realized that his only choice was to yoink Damon through his claw mark to reflect Kawaki's attack. Ada scolds Code for hurting Kawaki and using Damon without her permission before Code retreats. Shikamaru, being the Kawaki hater that he is, tells Naruto that they need to re-evaluate how they're dealing with Kawaki after the events that just transpired, and wondering how Naruto can look at Kawaki as family after he just killed his son. Boruto, suddenly alive, interjects with, "Who was killed? That's rude. Writing me off like that?" After this, time freezes and Momoshiki appears for Boruto to explain the process that revived him, given the revelation that Boruto is now 100% full Otsutsuki. After this inner monologue between the two, the scene skips back to Code's hideout, in which it is revealed that Code has left a claw mark seal on Shikamaru's back. I decided to put this chapter at number 3 as it had very high stakes, heavy emotion, a great, albeit one-sided fight between Kawaki and Code, more information about the Karma / Otsutsuki, and major setup for the conflict of chapters 68 through 70. At number 2, I have chapter 75, The Domain of Gods. Chapter 75 opens up with Amato explaining both Ada and Damon's abilities to Naruto, Shikamaru, Boruto, Kawaki, etc. Boruto is visibly confused by Damon's ability in particular, so Damon asks him if he wants to test it. Boruto kindly declines, but Kawaki had other plans, and imagined punching Damon. Sure enough, Kawaki got clobbered in the mouth by his own intent. Naruto asks Amato how he managed to create such broken abilities, and Amato claims, "Develop would not be accurate. I am a mere human, not a god. The crafting of abilities is a feat permitted to only gods. What I did is simply transplant things that already existed." When asked to elaborate, Amato says, "Their abilities were brought about by a god, someone who actually evolved into a godlike being. Otsutsuki Chibai. Chibai Otsutsuki followed the clan's strategy of using the karma to cheat death. He successfully underwent karmic resurrection to cheat death numerous times, traveled planet to planet eating as many chakra fruits as he could, and eventually evolved into a literal god who exists in a higher dimension. All that is left in this realm is the remains of his physical body. Amato goes on to explain that these abilities, along with those of Code, Ishiki/Kawaki, and even the karma itself, are a unique Otsutsuki art called Shinjutsu. Amato even confirms that the ninjutsu used by shinobi are merely a pale imitation of Shinjutsu when asked by Sarada. Amato used this information to segue into his next point. Otsutsuki powers contain hope, quote, capable of making what is impossible to us possible, such as bringing my daughter back to life. Amato's daughter, Akibai, however you say it, suffered from a terrible disease. Cause unknown, no drugs to treat it or a cure flat out, a fatal illness that doctors chose to give up on. Amato had came to the conclusion that cloning her was his best option, and 9 months after Akibi's initial death, her clone was completed. She had Akibi's voice, appearance, and memories, yet from a personality and humanity point of view, it was not her. No matter how many times he attempted to clone his daughter, he did not get the results he wanted, and realized that the impossible act to produce someone who had existed once before was something in the domain of gods. Upon giving up, Jigen appeared before Amato, offering to reunite him with his daughter if he assisted him. Upon learning of Jigen's true plans, Amato began working behind Jigen's back to take him down, and in the process discover karmic resurrection. Amato reveals that he added Akibi's data to Kawaki's karma. All Kawaki has to do is implant the karma onto a clone body in which Amato will prepare, and Akibi should be revived. Momoshiki's thoughts suddenly link with Boruto. Momoshiki confirms that the information about Chibai and Shinjutsu are true, and goes on to say that he has an intimate understanding of all extant Shinjutsu. He confirms that Ada's Senrigan is indeed Shinjutsu, but her charm ability is not. This is followed up by Momoshiki showing Boruto a glimpse into the future in which we see Sage Mode Mitsuki, Boruto with either the Byakugan or Jogan, but probably the Byakugan in his eye, Kawaki with his karma activated and blood on his face, Sarada, Shikadai, etc. all seem very panicked and calling out to one another, but we don't know exactly what is going on here. My personal theory, due to them looking not much older than they do currently, is that this takes place before the time skip and is a fight between Mitsuki and Kawaki after Mitsuki finds out about Kawaki quote-unquote killing Boruto. The chapter wraps up after this, and oh boy was this a long one. This chapter, while featuring no action unless you count the featured glimpses, contained the most information probably of any Boruto chapter period. I did not go back to reread the entire series to confirm this, but there's only 1 to 2 chapters in mind that I can't remember the exact number of that even come close. The chapters that I'm talking about are when Amato first gets to the Leaf Village and they're watching Koji vs Ishiki, and Amato is just explaining all this shit about the karma, the Otsutsuki, and a lot of information gets revealed there. Now, on to the finale. My pick for the absolute best Boruto chapter to be released in 2022 goes to Chapter 66, Do or Die. Chapter 66 builds on where Chapter 65 from December of 2021 leaves off. Kawaki is shown to have Ishiki's dojutsu, a horn, and a karma pattern across his body. Ishiki talks some shit to Kawaki before Kawaki goes straight at him with chakra rods. The first battle to the death between the Uzumaki bros has begun, and I say the first battle to the death due to whatever is taking place in Chapter 1's flash forward scene. Not necessarily saying one of them will kill the other in that fight, but I imagine the intent would be there as it is here. As the fight continues and Kawaki uses more and more of Ishiki's powers, Naruto and Code internally question if Amato is trying to turn Kawaki into a second Ishiki. After a bit of trading attacks, Kawaki is able to land a hit with a few chakra rods, thus immobilizing Borishiki. He follows this up by summoning a massive cube with Daiko Kyuden to go for the kill. Suddenly, Naruto swoops in to save his Otsutsuki-possessed son. Naruto and Kawaki get into a brief argument where Kawaki basically tells Naruto he's doing what must be done because Naruto himself can't do it nor come to terms with the reality of the situation. Boruto regains control over his consciousness and then tells Kawaki that it looks like their last resort plan is the only option left. Naruto, realizing what his son is implying, goes in to stop what is about to happen. Boruto catches Naruto with a wind-style Galpom to push him away. When Kawaki asks Boruto if he's ready, Boruto says, "You're the only one I can ask of this. So, while my mind is still holding Momoshiki at bay, do it, bro." Kawaki then kills Boruto. I put this chapter at number 1 as the emotional impact is insane. The stakes were the absolute highest they've been all year, with the Code/Ada lab invasion being the only few chapters that compare. Kawaki is an absolute beast, and to not only see him regain his karma in battle, but be using the abilities of Ishiki Otsutsuki while fighting a Momoshiki-controlled Boruto, leaving Sage-Mode Hokage Naruto unable to do anything but sit back and watch until the last minute. Even then, between the shock he was in and circumstances of the situation, he couldn't stop Kawaki, his adopted son, killing Boruto, his biological son. We also got some crucial information from Ada on how Kawaki regained his karma that was later confirmed to be true. All in all, I think this very well could be the best fight in the entire Boruto series. At the very least, top 3. Easily the best Boruto fight of this year, and for the chapter to end on Naruto painfully shouting Boruto's name over his lifeless body was just wow.
Wow!
I feel like more people are going to prefer chapter 75 over 66 due to 1, how recent it was, and 2, the sheer amount of information revealed. But on my list, for me personally, chapter 66 all day. Anyways, that wraps up this video. If you enjoyed, be sure to smack the hell out of that like button, subscribe if you have not already, and let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Until next time, peace.